Ladies and gentlemen, Kim here. Welcome to the daily update. Hope you guys had a good day trading today. Market is down actually quite a bit on the S&P. We're down almost 2%. I think at one point we got close to down 3% towards the midday today. I know some of the other indices like NASDAQ and some of the other ones were getting hit a little bit harder. Midday as the market gapped down and continued on here. But towards the last couple hours, we did see a little bit of dip buying activities, and so we ended the day on the S&P with 1.85% decline. So, with this decline, does anything change as far as overall picture is concerned? The uptrend, the midterm, and all of that, we're gonna find out on this video. So let's kind of trying to figure out what happened. In the micro term of things, so it looks like this was a gap down here, right? That's the first hour. We continued lower. There's a second hour, third hour. We just kept going lower until we hit that gap area, right? We hit that gap area. We're gonna go back. We're gonna zoom out. I'm gonna show you where the gap area was. And then we saw some dip buying activities there. We slowed down, right, on the fourth hour. For the first time in today's trading session, we saw a green candle on the fifth hour. We did see a follow through on the sixth hour, last hour there. So, I mean, despite the fact that we did see a little bit of dip buying activities here, we're getting a little bit, you can see maybe my midterm is slightly declining. Definitely my short term is falling now. So I think this is one of the reasons why I think over the weekend video I was not wanted to label this market bullish yet quite, even though we were kind of hanging around and we are finding some support on that support level, but it was still in the overall sense here. Let's zoom out here a little bit. This is kind of what we're talking about here. In the overall sense, we haven't begun to cultivate real uptrend yet. And also something that we talked about over the weekend video, on the weekend video, is that not to be too precise, not to put too much, not to put too much weight when the trend line, when the market gets slightly above it. Remember we talked about that? So you can see here, this is kind of what I was saying on the weekend, that that doesn't do much for me. Remember what I was talking about? That doesn't do much for me. What I wanted to see from this market is start cultivating higher lows and higher highs in the short term. We saw what it looked like potentially double bottom, and we saw that micro term higher low there, and we talked about for that double bullish divergence to be confirmed. We've been talking about this every single day last week. We need to get above 346, 347, and then start cultivating higher lows, higher highs. If that happens, I was going to label this market bullish. So despite the fact that we slightly got above that downtrend resistance, maybe a lot of people kind of, looked at that as a breakout, jumped in on Friday, and then you opened up on Monday and you realize this market is straight tanking, right? And then a lot of times people who went long here, they'll place their stop just about beneath this resistance or that support level here. Definitely with this kind of move, it's going to take your stop and then come right back to where the stop is. So in the short term of things, definitely we still continuing with lower highs and lower lows. I'm going to adjust this trend line a little bit just to accommodate this move there, right? So I'm going to do that right there. And so you can see that here, lower highs, and this is now becoming another lower high. We never cultivated that higher high. What the buyers needed to do is this thing's going back up here like that. And then for the first time, getting above this neckline, right, of this potential double bottom there, and then cultivating that higher high, and then doing something like that. See, we didn't get that. This was why in the short term, we're still in a kind of a downtrend there. And so now we gap down, we have lower lows. So we continue to cultivate and establish lower highs and lower lows We are still in a downtrend in the short term. We want to continue to give benefit of the doubt to the sellers in the short term, right? So I'm going to label this market in the short term bearish. And now another thing is that this gap just got opened. That's a down gap that just got opened. So that down gap is going to make things hectic for the buyers unless buyers want to get up here, fill this gap as quickly as possible. As long as the price below this gap, this down gap that was open today, and as long as we keep this gap remaining, things will get hectic for the buyers. Let's zoom out and look at that midterm and see, are we still in a uptrend in the midterm? We've been talking about this level here. This is the reason why I didn't give you that thin line support. We've been analyzing this market in last entire week. I gave you this big band, this big box. This is a reason why, because again, we're trying to figure out where that higher low is going to be. Is that going to be, 340, or is this going to be 338 or 335 vicinity? This is why I gave you these levels here, this big box, just because we're still in a short-term downtrend and nobody would know where we're going to fall. We're going to have real cultivation of that higher low. Everything looked like potential will continue higher today, but shenanigan is part of this market. You're going to have to go through these kind of shenanigans if you call yourself a longer-term trader or long-term investor, right? And there's always volatility around the corner. It doesn't matter where the market is. It doesn't matter if the market is here at 360, here at 340, here at 320, or even back in 240, 250, 260. Volatility is just part of this market. You cannot avoid it. This is why you want to understand not only the short term, but the mid-term and the long term and the macro term and the secular things. So anyway, so this is kind of the level here. So as far as like a midterm is concerned, this is the reason why I put that Fibonacci there. Got messed up here a little bit. I put that Fibonacci last week, I believe, last Monday. And so you can see that was the first level of my fib, as you can see there. It is no coincidence. We're trying to find some support, trying to find some move. Didn't succeed, and then now it went to my second level of Fibonacci, right, 337, which is coinciding with the gap area. So that gap really slowed it down. This is the reason why that up gap, it was not useless. Even though we made a huge move, pulled back, that gap was deployed by the buyers so that if we see shenanigans like this, hopefully that gap is going to act as some kind of a cushion, and support to bring back the price back up. And that's kind of why we saw last 2 hours of dip buying activities there, and we did see a little bit of bounce there. So in the midterm, are we still in an uptrend, or has it been dismantled? We are still in a uptrend in the midterm, because again, that was important lower highs right here, right? And we did cultivate that higher high in the midterm, right? And we got this low. We're trying to figure out where that next higher low is gonna be, right? Again, keep in mind, this low, we're not sure yet if this is going to be the low or not as of today, but let's say if this becomes some kind of a higher low, right? That low still is lower than these lows here. Still, I got this Fibonacci level here, so that means as long as the price stay above in this box and break, gets above and start cultivating a higher low, it's still considered midterm higher low, right? So that's a short-term sense. We're on a downtrend, but in the midterm sense, we are in a uptrend. We're just trying to figure out where that higher low is going to come about. We're 340, 330, where? We don't know that for sure. For this midterm to be dismantled, market needs to make midterm lower low, meaning it needs to come all the way back down to 320 here and break below that 320. Then that's a lower low, another lower low in the midterm. Until we see that, right? I mean, things gonna still start to get pretty ugly when the price starts to get below my last level of Fibonacci here, which is 330 level, but currently we're trading at about 340, right? We're on that 50% retracement level. So this could be that higher low we just don't have, we just can't substantiate that as of today, as of this moment. And also my midterm moving average is declining now. It is declining. It is no longer just sideways declining. So because of that, I have to give it in the midterm just neutral. I think over the weekend I gave it neutral to bullish in the midterm, but I'm gonna give it neutral now. So it's downgraded a little bit. We're neutral in the midterm, but I'm not quite giving it bearish. We're not neutral to bearish or bearish in the midterm. We're bullish in the midterm because we got these higher highs and potentially another higher low there. We don't know that yet. So that's why we're midterm bearish. My midterm moving average is crushing down. So that could make things a little bit hectic here in the short to midterm. So short-term bearish, midterm neutral, right? Obviously long-term is bullish going all the way back to March lows. Again, short-term bearish, midterm neutral, long-term bullish. Let's check out that oscillator before I let you guys go here. So that bullish divergence really never played out. That potentially really looked like a double divergence. And it's starting to get to that level here. I mean, it looks like we're gonna continue lower. I think we're just gonna reset this. It's already been, that momentum is to the downside, and I think it's gonna come back down here and start to reset here. Unless there's some kind of a big gap up and very, very fast move tomorrow morning. But it looks like it's gonna come back down, kind of neutralize this, and potentially looking similar to some kind of move like that, or something like where there's some kind of a hiccup, there's some kind of a whipsawing action, right? Because you can see the oscillator never goes back up to the top of its band. We're actually kind of oscillating back and forth at the bottom of its band, where it's showing some bearish sentiment here in the oscillator, and I could look at this as a resistance here until this thing gets back up above it and start hitting that overbought level. We're starting to get into that little bit hectic zone in the short term. So things are gonna get a little bit hectic here as long as price is below this gap. If we're not able to gap back above 346, 347, my oscillator needs to come out of this hectic zone here. It's going to favor the bears as it oscillates back and forth at the bottom of its band. I'll come back for you guys tomorrow night. We will re-examine the situation and we'll go from there. Enjoy your evening and good luck trading tomorrow.